Ashtavakra uvāca tadā bandho yadā cittaṃ yadā cittaṃ kiñcidvāñchati śocati kiñcinmuñcati gṛhṇāti kiñciddhṛṣyati kupyati. Ashtavakra said, it is bondage when the mind desires or grieve at anything, does reject or accept anything, does feel happy or angry at anything. In the intro to this chapter on bondage and freedom, Chinmaya writes, if what has been so beautifully described by Janaka in the previous chapter by the true knowledge of the tranquil self, why is it that this blissful experience is denied to the majority of the suffering humanity? Ashtavakra takes up this logical doubt for discussion and explains in this chapter how the bondage and why the freedom. The extrovertedness of the mind and therefore the outgoing tendencies of the ego characterize the state of bondage. The mind and the ego sense turning towards the self and the state of mind's dissolution and ego's rediscovery of its permanent identity with self constitute the state of freedom. Mahopanishad defines bondage with one word, mameti, mindness, and with another single word, nirmameti, not mindness, the freedom. The verse says, for bondage and freedom, there are two words, nirmameti and mameti. While mameti binds, nirmameti releases living beings. Mameti here is mindness. Nirmameti is not mindness. Simple definition. Then he goes on with the commentary. Ashtavakra defines a state of bondage, since this is the condition which is very familiar to students in general. If they were not already in bondage, they would not study Ashtavakra Gita, but would keep on singing their own Gita. Having brought the condition of bondage acutely to the awareness of a student, it should be relatively easy for the student to at least vaguely grasp what exactly is the state of freedom. And then he writes, to live a slave to the mind and its death dance is to live in bondage. Slavish obedience of the individual to the endless demands of the BMI for sense gratification among the objects of the world outside is the state of bondage. Unquote. We are bound to the world through desires and attachments. In a very particular sense, bondage means becoming bound to the world or to the body through attachments. Liberation means freedom from all obligations, compulsions, dependence and limitations. It is common knowledge that desire is the root cause of bondage and suffering. If you have desires, it means you have to work on yourself to achieve liberation. In search of meaning and purpose and to be a part of the world, you attach yourselves with some being, some people so much that you forget what you truly are. Attached with some beings or some objects, or many beings or many objects. As your true identity is suppressed beneath layers of compromise and conditioning, you may not even feel your true feelings or know what matters to you or which goals you should pursue. This is the state of the conditioning which is common to almost everyone and which scripture describes as egoism, ignorance and delusion. Kiñcit means even a little. Chinmaya wrote anything. Here we can also take it for even a little. It is used here to denote there should be a complete absence of desire or attachment or attraction or aversion for liberation to happen. Having even a little trace of desire or expectation is an indication that one is not truly free. Very often it is found, even in spiritual aspirants, that they compare themselves with others who, in their opinion, are not pursuing spirituality seriously. And then, with this comparison, the sadhakas, the spiritual aspirants, convince themselves that I have very limited attachment. I lose my composure only few times. There are only one or two in the world whom I dislike. There are only couple of desires in me. I am far better than others. And he also compares his past life with present life and ends up with complacence, that how much I have reduced my desires, my attachments, my lust, how much less I experience joy or sorrow when something good or bad happens to me. Oh, how much I have improved in this path. Ashtavakra warns, this kind of excuse is not acceptable if one really wants self-realization. True liberation means complete freedom from all desires and attachments. It is possible only when one is firmly established in the consciousness, without any duality and division. Every relationship, every attachment, every aversion is a hindrance. You have to dissolve all of them, all those labels which you have created for yourself. Whereas a liberated yogi is detached from everything. He is unassuming, undisturbed, and unafraid of anything, of any external or internal factors. He does not let his desires guide his emotions. Although he renounces the world, he accepts what comes to him naturally or spontaneously by the work of gods. He does not actively seek anything from his side. At the same time, he is not disturbed if nothing comes to him. Or, even worse, he has to deal with adversity and suffering. A self-realized yogi remains ever satisfied within himself. He neither accepts nor rejects any situation or any circumstance, and embraces, hugs life without conditions and qualifications. Since his consciousness is illumined with the light of the self, he finds himself in everyone and everything. He realizes that he is the pure self who plays diverse roles in innumerable bodies, untouched by the modifications which arise and subside within him as a part of his own play, of which he is the creator, he is the preserver, and he is the destroyer. Hari Om. That's it.